So thank you for coming to my channel and accept the invitation of coming in to show us what. Okay, just let me try introduce you. Right, you're you're the CEO of Visplore and Harald, right?
Yes.
I saw your Visplore product and I think it's pretty amazing. Just wanted to ask you, what is Visplore?
Sure.
And how long is the company? How long did you grow this company?
Yeah, sure. Brief, I would describe Visplore as an easy to use tool for fast self-service analytics on process and asset data. Actually, it enables operators and process engineers to make better decisions in much less time. Actually, I would also say the use cases of Visplore start at a point where monitoring tools such as PyVision, so it's designed for fast ad hoc analysis to really go a bit deeper and do advanced analytics of, let's say, complex patterns like batches, ramp ups, shutdowns, and so on. And also to do correlation analysis along long time periods, many tags. So all that kind of complexity you require for root cause analysis and identifying optimization potentials that are typically beyond the scope of what you would do in tools like PyVision.
So you're comparing PyVision. Yeah, PyVision, you can train. Pattern recognition is not going to be there. PyVision can do process monitoring. It's not an analytical tool that you can just, I don't know, it's not comparable. So
Yes.
Let's go into a little bit about your business. What specific instance inspired you to start this business?
Sure. Yeah. So Visplore is a spin-off from a research center where I've been doing research in visual analytics for more than 15 years. So the technology has quite some, let's say, research and development process. It actually all started when we saw at the research center in our project the increasing use and success stories by our project partners. So they came from power distribution, from manufacturing, like for example, RHI Magnesita, global market leader in refractories. So this was really kind of the big motivation to think about making more of it. And one thing that really inspired us, let's say emotionally, was the growing excitement we felt of early users. Yeah, so really, like there were statements like, "Wow, your tool answered questions in 5 minutes that we have been previously wondering about for 5 years." Yeah, things like that. So this was really something where we say, okay, I think we can make here a big step forward. Yeah, we bring forward the digitalization journey of many companies that are in that stage. And this was when we decided to scale the technology and found a business. And this was back in 2020.
So when you say research center, is it at university?
It was not actually a university. It was something between a university institute and a company. I would say sort of an applied research center. I would say.
And a company? I'm just trying to understand.
It was a center where other companies would go to do, let's say, do specific research on specific hard problems outside of a university setting. Yeah, so this was what I was trying to do. And basically the issue that we were pursuing was to find the sweet spot between classical analytics tools like Excel, statistics software, and so on one hand, and let's say complete black box solutions on the other hand. Yeah, to have something in the middle that empowers users without a deep data science background much more than they could do with the first kind of tools on their massively growing process data.
Okay, makes sense. Well, in Canada, my city doesn't have that research center. It sounds like it's like a school, but it's kind of like a separate entity. So why did you choose the business you're in? You kind of mentioned that, I guess, you see the benefit to the users and then you grow from it.
Yeah, actually I strongly believe in the huge impact that digitalization can and will have any type of technical asset and processes. So there's so much value to be captured, like regarding energy efficiency, regarding ecological footprint, safety, and much more. And also one thing that I really see as a big chance is the situation is that many even big enterprises are still in a stage, in our opinion, where they are just starting with systems such as the pisystem. And now even fewer of them have so far started with self-service analytics. So even that is a huge opportunity. And now, if we even think that, let's say, one order of magnitude smaller, to think about how many medium-sized enterprises are also at the verge of making first step towards digitalization and will eventually also at some point get to starting with self-service analytics. We see this really, we could hardly think of a field with more potential for growth.
I have clients and then I suggest your company and then compare. And then they tend to compare Visplore with Seek. You know that product, right? Did you do some research with them? Tell us why you are unique.
Well, I think there are several differences to Seek. Let's briefly mention 5 of them. So first, I'd say one difference is user experience. Visplore is right from the onset designed for fast data exploration. That's, by the way, also where the plore in the name comes from. It comes from exploration. So it means it reacts much faster on user interaction during analysis and shows results with milliseconds, even when zooming, selecting data, and so on. So I think the second difference is Visplore has a pretty unique plug-and-play concept that keeps time to insights very, very low. What this specifically means is that if you have tasks like comparing batch profiles, analyzing correlations, and much more, Visplore offers users pre-configured cockpit, so basically constellations of various views working together that make analytics very fast and don't require any setup time. I think a third difference is Visplore is very versatile. So for example, it has visualization options that go far beyond continuous process time series data, but include many types of multivariate views, categorical data, things that you would expect from a, let's say, business intelligence applications and so on. It works on categorical data, discrete data samples, and much more.
Maybe you can show that to us a little bit later of what you said, and also how to get data import from the pisystem. Show us a little demo later.
Maybe I should mention 2 things that are also, I think, very important distinctions to Seek. One is Visplore is still everything of Visplore is available on premise. So, for example, if companies don't yet want to or cannot go to the cloud, there is no pressure from us moving the data to the cloud. If you want to run Visplore fully on-prem, you can. And last but not least, and also this is very important, getting started with Visplore comes at much lower cost. So starting with Visplore is possible for less than 20,000 euros a year, which is, at least as far as we know, right, an order of magnitude smaller.
Do you have any profit?
We have, we're growing fast and have dozens of companies using Visplore, many of them together with their Pi systems, but not only, we also have companies running it together with other systems, but many of them actually have it running with Pi systems.
What's the ratio of Pi user trying to get software from you versus other product?
I would say regarding the number of clients, it's about a third, I would say, that use Visplore together with Pi systems. Yeah, so 30%, like a third of all users. Regarding the volume, I'd say it's much more. It's perhaps more than half the revenue that we generate is coming from customers who use it together with Pi system. Yes.
Where do you get the ideas of getting data from Pi? Like why there's a button we can pull data from Pi system?
Sure. So I mentioned that research center before, and the cooperation that we had with RHI Magneseater, leader in refractories, and actually they wanted to use Visplore together with data from their Pi system. So they have a Pi system, and the specific use case there was to analyze and compare data from their hydraulic presses. That's basically was the time when we built the first integration with Pi, which has of course improved the years. We also realized that actually Pi was strategically very important for our segment, and actually how widespread Pi actually is in industry.
You know, the people have Pi have a little more money than other people.
And structured data, also this is very important. Yeah, I would say it's because actually I would say for really making most use of it. Of course, actually we're not limited to Pi. Yeah, you can feed in data from a CSV file. You can get your data in from a SQL database. You can directly connect via an API to Python, and some of our users do that. But still, having a Pi system indicates a certain level of maturity in your digitalization journey. And it also is kind of correlated with a certain, let's say, mindset towards making use of data. And I think all that together is a very good starting point for getting started with Visplore.
And just to give you some ideas, like maybe you can look into getting data from other historian, like there's other cloud historian out there that may want to talk to you because they might want to partner with you. Hey, this is how you can get our data. This is our protocol, API, right? Like, so your analytic tool can be more powerful when you can get data from more source of historian, right? So, all right. So how do Visplore connect to Pi? And I have a person researching your product, and he told me he have to install Pi Web API. Is it Pi Web API connect to Pi? Is it AF SDK? Or just wanted to ask.
Actually, internally, we are using the Web API to connect to Pi. We support, but it's actually something that's hidden from the users. Yeah, so it's, let's say, it's a technical thing, but once it's set up, users using Visplore don't need to care about Web API or some other protocols underlying that. So what basically from the user experience point of view, users just search for tags. They can browse asset structures. So we specifically support the asset framework. Yeah, so they can browse their asset structures, can select their assets in the asset tree and get it for a comparison or whatever. Basically, it's flexible, so users may add tags or change things like the resolution of time anytime. So it's really closely integrated. Yeah, it's not like that it would be like a one-time import, but it's while you're working with it, you can constantly, let's say, dynamically get in new data, let your data be automatically updated every, I don't know, once a minute or so. So all that works together with Pi.
No, the reason why I asked that is because the integrator watching my videos might be thinking, how do Visplore connect to Pi, and they are trying to integrate that together, right? And they need to install the component they need in order to get Visplore working. And you answer why Pi Web API. So when do you realize your software is having an impact? Like, when did they get started? You kind of mentioned it, but like from your research center, you bring it to a business, become a business, and then how do you get your first customer?
Emotionally, similar to what I said before, we realized when we repeatedly heard some enthusiastic statements of initial users we had during that times at the research center. And regarding the business impact, actually, it's the learning over quite some years to realize where are the use cases where it really makes a big impact on the business side, like saving millions of euros and beyond. Yeah. So, for example, we have recently had an example from one of our customers, Hafslund Eco. So they are a hydropower producer from Norway. And for example, they recently discovered an overheating bearing in one of their turbines, and they found the root cause with Visplore, and it reduced the maintenance effort for them by 50% and was estimated by them as 1.1 million euros of avoided revenue loss. And those are things when you really kind of see this is like having a big impact.
Because people save money, there's a point to buy your software, right? Yeah, makes sense. I think that's how you start, like and then like more and more people knowing that, then they may try your software. And like Pi Vision is great, but it has just a visualization tool. But it seems like Visplore can do visualization in Explore exploration kind of way, and you can create dashboard and all that, right? So I have tried it. So who is your ideal customer? Who should be buying Visplore?
Well, I'd say companies running historians such as pisystems who want to increase the value they get out of their data. Yeah, so very general statement. In our experience, like the first step that a company does after introducing a system like Pi is to set up dashboards for monitoring. Yeah, that was also why I was referring to Pi Vision before. But then at some point, some cases earlier and some cases later, we see that companies realize that they need to go beyond dashboards for things like root cause analysis and optimization. Unfortunately, it often needs some, let's say, painful, costly lecture to really understand this. Yeah, for example, a shutdown event that could have been avoided, or a serious product quality issue or something like that. And once there is such an event, that typically then creates the awareness and priority also for looking at advanced analytics tools, discovering the need to empower their own engineers to do more with the data than just looking at dashboards. And I think when a company has arrived at that stage, they will also quite fast understand the value that Visplore brings to them. I think regarding verticals, we're having customers in many verticals. Yeah, I would say quite a lot of them come from power generation utilities, but we also have customers in pulp and paper, in chemistry, in pharmaceutics, in discrete manufacturing, and much more. Yeah, so it's spanning quite a lot of verticals with, let's say, a bit of a focus on power generation.
What is your goal you wanted to achieve most for your client in Visplore?
Simply, we want them to get the maximal value out of their byte data and to regain a real advantage by that. I mean, there are some studies claiming that still 85% of all data still goes unused. We want to change that.
Do we need to have a PhD degree to use Visplore?
No, not at all. Actually, the target users are not data scientists. It's all graphical. I will give a demo maybe in a minute. It's all graphical. It's easy. Typically, users do have a domain background or subject matter experts by being, for example, experts in the process, and in the operation of their plants, of their assets. Yeah, so actually some of them even have PhD degrees, but typically rather on process engineering than on data science. But of course, it's not required, it's not necessary. What's really important to us is also the experience of our users. When they report like how much time it saves them and how much also it improves their attitudes towards data analytics, because it feels quite different than many other tools.
Positive experience, you're saying. Okay. What is the biggest challenge so far from your company perspective?
So from the company perspective, of course, as a startup, getting noticed by your market is I would say, always something that can go faster. And also, let's say, as an European company, for example, being heard in a US market, in a market in Asia, is also, let's say, not something that comes by itself. So this is for sure something. I would say regarding the product itself, I think a big challenge when designing a tool for advanced analytics is really to find a sweet spot between offering, on one hand, much flexibility and robustness for the analytics you'd want to do, because you just want to have them just yet another dashboard. You actually want to do them more. But on the other hand, keeping things as simple as possible and in a way that motivates users like engineers to use the software rather than, I don't know, to overwhelm them. I think this is quite a challenge, but I think we managed this well.
You're getting there. You're on my channel. My channel is growing too. I just want to learn from you too. What's the biggest lesson you learn when you're building software?
I would say to really rigorously focus on end-to-end use cases and customer value rather than on specific features, even if they're cool. If you started a computer scientist someday, of course, chances are high, you're kind of happy to do something that's cool. It's new, that's cool, that brings some novelty in there and so on, which is also good, of course, kind of create USPs and so on, but still assessing each feature by its business value it brings, what really matters to the client and the use cases they care about. And so really understanding these use cases and end-to-end processes well, I think that's the core component that must drive everything else.
I'm just thinking like Aveva built so many other products that are like VR, 3Ds, and AI product as well. But I wonder if it is really the customer wanted or this is thing to go for. What's the important problem Visplore is trying to solve right now, like to help customer?
Saving energy, saving resources, and so on. And actually, these are challenges like every company is facing, more or less.
Yeah.
Every company cares about energy cost. Every company cares about compliance with CO2, exhaust gases, and so on. So I think these are quite challenges that can be addressed by data analysis. One thing is many of these problems actually require a combination of data analytics on one hand and subject matter expertise on the other. One without the other often leads to poor results. Then you find a common situation that on one hand, companies invest a lot of money to collect massive data, but actually use it then to a very limited extent, maybe a few dashboards. On the other hand, maybe at the very same company, still countless work hours of engineers wasted on rather simple data preparation and analysis tools, tasks, maybe in things like Excel still. And that's exactly where Visplore comes in. It enables engineers to do advanced analytics on this big data, to bring these things together. To do that in an interactive, exploratory way, rather than require them to do, to waste hours or even days on some data preparation tasks just to get some KPIs in the end.
And that's why I want to bring you to my channel, because I see as an Aveva guy or Pi guy, I was in the user conference of Aveva and they propose other predictive analytic tool or like advanced analytic tool. And I'm like, please, there is other product out there that can do better job than this one. So let's do this meeting to show the world there is good analytic tool out there, right? That is like cost friendly as well. And where do you see your company 3 years from now? Because I'm curious, my customer is curious, like we don't want you to go away. I mean, like also, we don't want you to sell the company too. Where do you see your company 3 years from now?
Yeah, so we already, let's say, have attracted investments by venture capital firms who really, let's say, backing up a fast growth of the company. And in that period, let's say, we want to be globally known as an easy to use, powerful, and also affordable solution to self-service analytics. So really to enable companies to start with self-service analytics while keeping the barrier as low as possible, both from a financial perspective, but also from, let's say, user perspective. So we had lots of cases where our users made very important findings in the second hour of the initial workshop with them. So it was the first training workshop, and in the second hour they spotted things that they would have never spotted otherwise. And in that sense, we see, as I said before, that many companies are still just starting with self-service analytics, and we want to be part of their journey. We want to enable them to achieve their goals and to do so much faster and easier than they would have expected, maybe even.
Well, it's my habit to like to ask, book, do you like to read? Do you read books?
Yes, I should. No, actually, of course, I'm reading a book. Actually, there are lots of great books. And one thing that I can highly recommend to entrepreneurs is Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey Moore. It's like a classical piece of literature for startups, but its lessons are just as relevant today as they were 10 years ago. I also like books about psychology. So, for example, Kahneman's great Thinking Fast and Slow. I don't know if you know it.
Is it in German or this is
No,
this
is all English. So this is English.
Okay, I'm going to look. I read a lot of books here. Is it like...
My bookshelf is outside of the camera perspective. But so this is something I can recommend to learn about, like cognitive biases and so on. Regarding podcasts, I listen to various podcasts sometime, but rather sporadically, to be honest. And so there is no single podcast that I would listen to on a very regular basis. So regarding podcasts, I'm afraid that I'm a bit the wrong one to give recommendations on that.
I'm also a CEO company. I have 3 people in the company, 4 now. Wanted to get an idea. Okay, so is there any important question you wanted to answer, but I failed to ask?
I think we covered most of it. Apart from that, maybe if you have something like 5 minutes to really give you a short impression of what Visplore, of how it actually looks, of how it integrates with Pi, because just talking to it is one thing, seeing in action is another. So this is something I would add. But I think apart from that, I think it's important to say Visplore is as I said in the beginning, it's an easy use tool for self-service analytics of process data. It's really targeting engineers as users and make it much easier and faster for them to do root cause analysis, process optimization, and so on.
You know, in my mind, it's an advanced version of Pi Vision.
In some sense, yes. Well, I wouldn't see Visplore, let's say, as the classical live monitoring dashboard. So it's not more than Pi Vision. I think I would still see it something different. So there might be, of course, some overlapping part, but still the use cases where you would use it for, we don't also, most of our Pi customers have some Pi Vision dashboard. I think it's not an either or, but it's really like the kind of tool set do you need to get the most value out.
You know overall. What be surprising is the licensing of Pi Vision might be more expensive than your product. Anyway, too much information. Show us a quick demo and
yeah, sure.
We want to see a glimpse of it.
Just let me switch over to Visplore. Okay, all right, here we are. This is already like where you would import data from Pi. So you to specify some time range. You want your initial data to be in, but as I said, it's like can be updated anytime. And then search for data from a Pi data archive or from an asset framework. In this case, we're just importing something like 66 tags from a continuous manufacturing process. So now this is the point when the data gets fetched from Pi. This may take a few seconds, but not so long.
By Pi Web API.
Yeah, this is via Pi Web API, but we actually looking now at multiple months of data. And once the data is here, it's really, really fast. Maybe it just start very simple. We see the list of tags here, already have some statistics for them, like the mean, minimum, maximum, and so on. Just clicking on a tag opens up the corresponding visualization. Of course, we can also look at multiple tags, have them overlaid.
That's the basic trending tool,
That's the basic trending. But the thing where it gets immediately a bit, let's say, more advanced is Visplore already kind of ships without having set up anything. It ships additional visualizations like the histograms of the 2 tags that we looked at. And that's important. These are not just visualizations, but every visualization here in Visplore can be thought of as a kind of user interface for the data. So what do I mean with this? So for example, when you look at this histogram here, you see that you have a kind of a spike here around the value of 3000. And what you can do is now you can select that spike directly here in that visualization. By having selected that, we see the corresponding time periods here in the time series view. And maybe these are like periods that we might want to exclude. I just disable that tooltip here because it's a bit disturbing. If you want to exclude that, we can just easily filter that and have it filtered here.
So you can clean some outlier or something. Okay.
Yes, to clean some outliers, to focus on interesting periods. Or just another example, if we go over here, for example, we would see a scatter plot of this data here. So in this case, like the blue time series, number 21 here is on the x-axis, and here the green one is here on the y-axis. And
correlation.
For example, to look at correlations. And when we then see, for example, that there are most data is here in that range, but let's say we would be interested in periods where this parameter 21 is pretty low, while the other is pretty high, we can also here directly select situations in that view, and immediately identify what are the corresponding periods here in the time series visualization. Then we can give that a name, like this is label it and say this is a certain process region. And having that specified here, this process region, we would then immediately see whenever new data, for example, arrives at this. This is a very simple example, of course, but it kind of shows how to work with Visplore. Maybe just one step further, because I said before that Visplore kind of allows you to integrate data over multiple sources. So maybe let me briefly show this. I can say we want to add data from a second source. And in this case, let's say it's a cool database where something like orders from an ERP system, like an SAP system, for example, would be in. Just to look at a preview, how is this data structured? Actually, it just has a starting timestamp and an ending timestamp. And it then, for that period, says which product was produced, perhaps maybe something like the order ID and some additional attributes like price. And if we get that data in now, what Visplore can do is Visplore can integrate those data sources, even though data is structurally quite different. So in this case, what we can do now is, let's maybe start by looking at the time series. We can now assign the product that we just imported here to color and can then see by color when each product was produced. But actually we can do much better, because if we look here at the, for example, up here at that part, almost something know from a business intelligence. So for example, you can say, okay, let's discriminate the products that we have. There we see product A, product B, and so on. If we have a certain product, we can just click on it and see the process data for that product. Then we see that for some time here, we don't have information about any product. Again, this is something that we can easily filter out by just clicking on it and saying filter. And then we can make simple analysis like, okay, we want to see how long was each product produced. It just means we set here the number of hours to the bars. We don't want to be color specified. Say we order this by the number of hours, and we have a nice bar chart that is linked to this process data here. What does it mean when I say it's linked? If we, for example, we defined this process region before, and if I want to say, okay, now I want to reduce my analysis to exactly that process region that we defined before. So if you remember, this was like this, or this part here in this scatter plot, and then like return to that, see that highlighted, and we see like how this bar chart then is immediately affected by that. Yeah, so we see that in that process region, we find product T for 27 hours, and we see the blue product Q here for 6.25 hours. And at some point, also product A, but only very shortly for half an hour.
Okay. So you could integrate various sources of data in Visplore and then do the correlation as well, which is more advanced because I can see like it's a little more difficult.
This would be one example of integrating data from two sources and also integrating categorical data, not only quantitative as we have here from these tags, but also, let's say, categorical data like information about a process date, about a produced product, and so on, whether an asset is switched on or off. So lots of information you might want to include in the analysis, and where it's very helpful to have those various views on the data which actually play together in the way as I showed. And maybe as in the final minute to have a third tab, we really say, because you mentioned so often correlation analysis, and I think that's a good thing to start off, because when you have such process data like this, one thing that's a frequent use case that we see is to correlate the data with some quality samples. And this is something that we can also show here. In this case, let's say I'm importing quality samples from a file. The CSV file that simply just has some quality samples at some sporadic timestamp. So no regularity here. So here we see that now we have this CSV file as a third data source. The first one's the pisystem. The second one was the data from the SQL database. Now the quality samples is coming from a file as a third data source. And in this case, we see that when we scroll down the list here, we see now this quality indicator as being basically another source. We get red to better impression here. So we see here this quality samples also being included. But now actually the question that we have is we just don't want to only display it. We actually want to correlate this in quality information with all these tags, because what we want to find out is which of the tags is actually correlating with this quality. And especially for this, I mentioned these pre-configured cockpits before, and dealing with correlations is exactly one of them. Yeah, so we just switch over to a correlation tool here, and after a few seconds, we basically see that here we see the correlation of all these tags with this quality indicator. So for example, we see if we take the very first one, we see that here the correlation between this tag number 57 and this quality indicator, still we see that there is also, let's say, a longer period where actually this tag here was 0. Again, we just might want to exclude this, which we can do. Say we just select it and click on filter, and then the correlation is re-evaluated really to only take the remaining time into account. It's like how fast it is to actually combine data from multiple sources, continuous data, discrete data, and get to correlations as we see it here.
Very cool. Yeah, I can see a lot of things that it's like blow my mind here that I don't want to build, but I want to utilize. So like maybe you can close down this sharing screen, and then I just want to wrap up here. So yeah, thank you for coming on to my channel and giving demo as well as about your company and what it does, right? So, and you as well. If you guys wanted to try out Visplore, please contact.
Yes, when you can basically just write an email to office@visplore.com. Yeah, so this would work, of course, and then we would get back to you. But there is also, if you look at the website visplore.com, there is possibilities to talk to an expert, where we then kind of talk about the use case. And of course, it's possible to get a also free trial phase of Visplore, which typically follows the process where we try to find relevant use cases first, see over the course of a few weeks how we can achieve that together with the customer.
Thanks for coming on again. Thank you, everyone. And thank you. Bye.